Hi and Assalamu alaikum. My name is Adli Arif and welcome to my presentation about Chapter 2 of Book 1 together with my group mates Muhammad Firdaus and Muhammad Muzima. Now the chapter's title is called Understanding Worldview from a Western Perspective. This chapter aims to introduce and examine the concept of worldviews from a Western perspective, and it discusses the necessity, structure, objectives, and kinds of worldview. Now, the chapter first goes into a general definition of worldview in a Western context. The chapter says that worldview is both a term as well as a concept, and it is used by both scholars as well as ordinary people. This means that every person has their own unique worldview, whether or not they're aware of it. The chapter says that worldview is related to one's beliefs and concepts on the world around them. And the chapter also says that the term remains vague and open to interpretation. Now, what does this mean? So basically, what it's saying is that because worldview covers such a wide variety of topics, anything from morals, religion, ethics, philosophy, history, linguistics, culture, because of all these wildly differing subtopics within worldview, different scholars would give different interpretations and different definitions depending on their specialization. The chapter then continues to talk about the historical development of worldview. It cites several studies that explain the historical development, including David K. Noggle in his book Worldview, The History of a Concept, as well as Werner Bertz in his book about the concept of Weltanschauung. Worldview in a modern Western context has its roots in 18th century Germany. It was first introduced as Weltanschauung, which a direct translation would be wide world perception or wide world view. And it was first mentioned in Immanuel Kant's Critique of Judgment. German scholars would continue to develop and study Weltanschauung, and over the course of 70 years, this term would begin to be used worldwide and be adopted in many different languages, including English. The chapter then continues about the definition in Western dictionaries. Now, it gives multiple examples. However, I will just focus on two. The first being the Oxford English Dictionary, which says that worldview is a particular philosophy or view of life held by an individual or group of people. The American Heritage Dictionary of the English language says that worldview is a noun, and it describes the overall perspective of which one sees and interprets the world. Other examples include David Noggle's definition, Sigmund Freud's definition of Weltanschauung, James W. Sire's definition. However, something to note is that all these different definitions have slight differences between them, but they all follow the general concept of worldview being defined as how one sees the world around them. Finally, the chapter continues to talk about worldview as perceived from Western scholars. And again, it gives multiple examples. However, I'm just going to focus on two. The first being Paul Herbert's definition of worldview. And he says that worldview deals with ethics, morals, and purpose of human life. He also says that worldview is based entirely on man-made assumptions. Now, why do I find this interesting? That is because it goes against Islamic worldview. Islam says that not all worldviews are man-made. Some are based on truth and based on the divine revelations, like the Quran and Hadith. And those are the complete truth, and to question it would be heretical. The second one would be James Sire's definition, which says that worldview is a set of assumptions that may be true, partially true, or false. And it provides a foundation to how we live our lives. And he poses 7 questions to define the boundaries of worldview. And these are: what is reality? What is the nature of external reality? What is a human being? Are we machines? Are we the image of God? Are we descendants of apes? What happens to a person after death? How do we know what is right and wrong? And what is the meaning of human history? Now, James W. Sire says that a person's worldview is their own personal answers to these 7 important questions. Everyone has their own unique answer. For example, an Islamic worldview would say that when you die, you either go to heaven or hell, whereas a Buddhist worldview would say that you are simply reincarnated. Thank you for listening.